Right, I'm going to do a critique on Carl Benjamin. Carl Benjamin. He's a famous YouTuber known as Sargon of Akkad. Now, I actually agree with the vast majority of what this guy says. He's very wise and he says a lot of important points, but he's not perfect. And the mistakes he does make, what few of them there are, they're actually very critical mistakes, and they're really fucked up shit. He has some really fucked up beliefs and ideas about things, and his real political position is not what it seems to be. And this is a common problem, and it needs to be pointed out. So that's why I'm going to choose him as an example of critiquing his position. So he's basically he's in favour of a majority vote scenario. So I need to explain. There's so much I need to explain here. So I'm hoping I remember to explain everything I need to explain, just to cover the basics of the point I'm trying to make. 'Cause there's so much here, but it's not complicated. It's just there's a lot of different factors involved. So I want to choose the topic of fascism and his position on fascism. And as far as I can tell, he might actually believe, I'm not sure, but I think he might actually believe in the Holocaust narrative or something, or he's at least against National Socialism, as far as I can tell. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's against, I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure he's against National Socialism, and he's definitely against fascism. And Adolf Hitler wasn't actually a fascist, but people think he was. But Mussolini was a fascist, and Hitler and Mussolini got along very well, and they allied themselves. So I'll give you a different political scenarios here. So society has laws, and you need to establish laws to stop bad people from doing bad things, to protect the innocent and vulnerable, to stop human exploitation, to have some kind of general moral standard. So who votes? Who decides these laws? Well, it's a matter of a scale from 1% to 100%. So let's start with 100%. So let's make it so, in order for any law to be established, 100% of the people need to say yes to this law, need to vote yes for this law. So everyone has to agree. The good people, the bad people, everyone agrees. So we make up this law. What purpose does that law have when 100% of people agree with it? Even the bad people agree with it. So you have a law that no one has the intention of breaking anyone. There's no one to protect, because it's a crime that no one believes in, no one will do in the first place. Now maybe sometime in the distant future, there's an extremely small chance that someone will be born who will stand against this law, and they'll do this crime. But it's negligible chance that will ever happen. So this is a law with 100% consensus law, not to be confused with a majority consensus, because consensus can mean a majority, an overwhelming, not just a majority, an overwhelming majority, like 85% plus or something, versus 100% consensus. So we're talking about a 100% here. So it has that law, that 100% voted in law, has no power or meaning whatsoever. It's useless, because no one's going to violate in the first place. Well, no one has the intention of violating in the first place. And it has potential, an extremely small chance of a potential of stopping one person committing one crime 100 years from now or something. It's ridiculous. It has no meaning or purpose. It's ridiculous, right? It's needless laws and actually cause harm. When you overcomplicate the law with all these bizarre, confusing laws, you fuck the law up. So it's a problem. It's not a solution. It's a problem. So you have a 100% vote on anything, it's actually a problem. Everything that 100% of people agree on shouldn't actually be made law in the first place. You don't even need to establish that everyone agrees on it, because everyone already agrees on it. You don't need to establish that. And you shouldn't make it a focus of political discourse. So 100% consensus is useless. So let's go from a majority. We'll go from at least 50%, like say 51% to 99%. And this is the basis of democracy. And in most civilization, most coherent civilization at least, is based on the 51 to 99% majority. So most people, but not all people, most people have to agree that a certain thing should be made law. So this is the basis of civilization, really. So most people will vote on a certain law, say it's wrong to murder, it's wrong to steal or whatever, and it becomes law. So most people agree, but some people disagree. Even if they might publicly endorse it, privately they don't. They will commit these crimes because they don't care about morals. There's always going to be at least a minority of people, at least a minority, sometimes a majority, and that's when it becomes a big problem. But at least a majority of people believe that it's a bad thing and it shouldn't be done, and that people the victims should be protected. So there should be punishment in order to intimidate evil people to stop them from evil. It's not about vengeance. Punishment is about justice, not vengeance. And justice is about protecting future victims. So you punish evil people from doing evil things in order to intimidate evil people and stop them from doing bad things in the future. It's in the name of protecting future victims. It's not about revenge or anything like that. And accountability is not vengeance. Revenge is not the same as accountability. It's so important to understand the difference between these things. So if you have a majority rule and there's a minority, there's always going to be at least a minority of people who are going to do some fucked up shit, and they're going to hurt innocent people, they're going to exploit people. So this is what law is generally for, is the majority of people are considered reasonable, and there's some people who do some fucked up shit. So it's to protect the majority from the minority. It can go wrong, anything can go wrong, almost anything, but that's a general idea. You have the majority of reasonable people set a minimum standard of behaviour in law against the minority who do some bad things to protect everyone. It even protects other bad people. So these bad people who will violate these laws, they will almost always, they want those very same rights, but they'll violate them in others because they're hypocrites. So the majority 51 to 99% rule is considered the standard. Not a universal standard that exists for all time. A lot of people say, and Sargon of Akkad, Carl Benjamin, believes that is one of the believers that this should always be, the majority vote should always be the case. It's a blind, ignorant position because that's not always the situation. It's not always the situation. He, like others, have a fear. They are scared of heroes and villains. And they want to stop both heroes and villains. They just want. They are ideologues who pretend not to be ideologues. They're ideologues of democracy. Now, democracy can be a good thing. Not always the case, but usually it's generally a good thing. But these people are ideologues to democracy. So going from majority, let's go to a minority vote. Let's just say from 2% to 50%. So it's a minority rule. So this idea is when things are really bad, you have all the experts, the professionals, and the smartest people. These people qualify for voting rights over the laws. Everyone else, you have to be a special person in order to get these voting rights. Well, that can go wrong because who defines who gets these special rights? The government does. And if the government's corrupt in the first place, the majority of people can't, they're going against the majority. They're potentially going against the majority, and they usually do. And this often goes wrong. When you have a minority of special rights people, or special voting rights at least, of people dictating to the majority. And this is something that democracy is trying to avoid from happening, to just manage it as a majority, to keep it as a majority. And democracy can go wrong because you import immigrants, and these immigrants outvote, they turn the first world into the third world. They destroy the civilization. So even democracy has problems, and it doesn't work at certain times, especially when you allow immigration, which is illegal in the first place. That's another topic. So a minority vote, a lot of people support this. This is behind communism. Even capitalism, would you believe, capitalism is based on this. It's not based on a majority, it's based on a minority vote. All these Zionist ideologies are of a minority vote, anywhere between 1 and 50%, not just 2 and 50%. There's a difference between 1 and 2%, it matters, and I'll get to that. So a minority vote is only the experts get to choose the laws. And only the experts are considered wise enough to make these decisions. You're not a special person. You're not well educated. You don't have a 150 IQ. You don't have a professional title from. You're not a doctor or a scientist or something. And this is the general standard of ideologies like technocracy. Is only the experts rule. And if you look at my critiques of Jack Fresco and the RBE cult and technocracy, the transhumanists, all this stuff, they're all connected. It's all the same toxic communist utopia kind of crap. And I don't need to critique communism. You should pretty much know what's wrong with communism. If you don't, you really need just look it up. There's a lot of stuff available on why communism is so wrong. It's a Trojan horse, a bad Trojan horse. It's guilty of the worst crimes against humanity imaginable. So, a minority rule tends to be communism. Not always, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes society is messed up, and you need to choose. It's sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, not something you want to promote all the time, but sometimes when society is messed up, you need to say, okay, these people are fucked up. They don't know what they're doing, and they even admit they don't know what they're doing. They want someone to fix things, but they're not smart enough and educated enough and wise enough to know what to do. So you can actually do this through democratic rule. You can say, you can get people to vote. And if you do, the only way you can do this, you can do it through a democracy, just like Adolf Hitler did. Is you say, okay, look, everything's fucked up. We need to establish that only some people can make up the laws, not everyone, because you're all misguided. You know you're misguided. If you believe that you're misguided and you want some of us educated people to fix things up for you, at least for now, we'll fix it. And you vote us in and we'll fix it, if you believe in this. And this is what happened in Germany. It's happened all around the world. Is things get that messed up that the majority says, okay, let's make it a minority vote. And we'll trust you it can go wrong, but we're placing trust in you. It's that bad, and we believe in you and what you're doing, and we believe that you're going to fix things. Well, at least for now, we'll trust you to fix it for us. Now, sometimes that can go into a one-way trip. Once you go down that road, you need to be really sure that the person you're trusting to do a minority vote it's not going to backfire, and they're not going to seize power and do some fucked up shit. And most of the time, it does go wrong. It doesn't mean that it always goes wrong. Sometimes you need a group of heroes to rise to the challenge and protect you, like a military protects you in war. A military is not the majority. They protect the majority, and they put their lives on the line. Well, theoretically, anyway. In reality, it doesn't turn out that way, but in theory. So a minority rule can go wrong, but it's not necessarily bad. It can be good or bad. It's something that in the right context, as it's supposed to be, is a very good thing and a necessary thing. But it can go wrong. It's a risk. And people who are democratic ideologues like Sargon of Akkad, they're scared of the potential risk. They don't want to take risks. They're ideologues to majority. Just like how the other ideologues, the communist ideologues, are all about equality. Him and those like him are all majority of the same mantra over and over again. Blind, incoherent mantra. Adherence to ideologues. And Sargon of Akkad, he's one of these ideologues to the democracy side of ideologues. He wants to play it safe. And it's like, if you play it safe, you're screwed. Sometimes you need to take risks. When things are bad, you need to take risks, and you need to be very careful about those risks and take them right. You can't play it safe your whole life. So, we've done the minority rule. Let's go to the extreme minority rule, the 1%, where there's one dictator or fascist, and there's dictator and fascist are not the same thing. There can be some crossover, but they're not the same thing. These different words exist, and they mean different things, not to be confused with each other. So, we're talking about fascism. So, in fascism, one person rises to power, and if this guy seizes power through a military coup or something, against the will of the people, and he doesn't get the initial vote into power in the first place, almost always it's a bad thing, but it isn't always a bad thing. On the rare occasion, it can be a good thing. And in desperate times, you need one hero or a group of heroes to rise up and save everyone. And this is what fascism is supposed to be. Now, ideally, you would want a fascist to get the popular vote, but they don't need the popular vote to justify what they're doing. If they're on the side of good, and they are a genuine hero who rises to the challenge to lead everyone to the greener pastures and save them from destruction, a hero is a fascist. In fact, all fiction is based off a hero, a fascist hero who rises to the challenge. And he cuts the path forward, and he tells it. He leads the way. One person leads the way. This person is a fascist. So all heroes in stories tend to be fascists. And the key here is when these fascists, when they do what they need to do to save everyone, they let go of the power. They wield the power. They use it to save everyone. And as soon as they've saved everyone, they let it go. They drop it. That's how a hero fascist. There's a time and a place for fascism, hero fascism, and they let go of that power. The evil fascist, they grasp that power, they abuse that power, and they never let it go. Just like a minority rule, even more so than a minority rule, when you take that path towards fascism, you take that great risk. If it's a villain and they fuck up, or they're a hero who becomes corrupted, and it goes wrong, there's no way out of that. You have to have massive civil war and a lot of casualties in order to get out of that fascism. So it's a big danger and it's a big risk. But that big risk, if it's done right, has great rewards. And hero fascists are the people who have defined history and saved mankind in the past. Fascism is a good thing that can go catastrophically wrong. Fascism is a thing of extremes. And extremism isn't necessarily good or bad. It can be either. It can be extreme good or extreme evil. So people like Sargon of Akkad, they just label all fascism as evil because they don't want to take risks. So they label anything that's risky, it's all evil, it's all evil, it's all bad. Majority, 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 mantra, mantra, mantra. And Sargon of Akkad is one of these people. So fascism is not necessarily bad. It's a thing of heroism that can go catastrophically wrong. But sometimes you need a hero to come and save everyone. A fascist sets the rules or the laws for himself. In an immoral society, they can fix things. Now, Adolf Hitler, he wasn't a fascist. He was voted in democratically, and although he had a lot of power, he didn't have that power alone. He shared it with others. He was the most influential power, but it wasn't exclusively all Adolf Hitler. And so the reason why Adolf Hitler and Mussolini got along so well is because they both considered them heroes in desperate times. One was a National Socialist, the other was you would call a fascist. Now, these terms like fascism and National Socialism or Nazi, they didn't historically have the taboo they have today. They were considered a good thing. Adolf Hitler was considered a hero, right up until he kicked out the Jewish bankers. And then the Jews went to war against him. And you look it up, the Jews were declaring war on him for ages. And then, but when he got rid of their money cartels, their banking cartels, they said, oh, okay, he's kicked us out of our illegitimate power. We're gonna kill them all. The Zionist Jews waged war against Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler was desperately trying to say, don't go to war against us, don't go to war against us. And they killed millions of Germans in Danzig. And if you look this up, even Wikipedia says that it was all a big lie made up by Nazis in order to wage war against everyone. They falsely accused Poland of killing all these millions of Germans, and they made it all up. But if you look at other Wikipedia articles, you look at Bloody Sunday, I think it was called. As soon as Germany went through Poland, they didn't invade Poland. They had to go through Poland to go to their other territory that Poland separated them from. So they had to transport through Poland in order to reach the people that these Polish were killing. And as soon as they got there, it was proven that they were doing this. And even the very people who say that it was this big evil Nazi propaganda lie that they made up, these very people who say that admit that Bloody Sunday was real. So the thing that they accused Hitler and the National Socialists of making up this big lie, they confirm the very thing they say is a lie. They confirm it to be true. The incoherent liars, they just make it up as they go. So they went into Poland, and the very thing they deny was proven true, and they admit it's true. So anyway, when it comes to National Socialism and fascism and stuff, these are evil people who they don't want a hero to rise to the occasion because they're trying to cut down any good people, any goodness in the world, and they especially hate the white race, the male sex, people who are straight, not on drugs. You have all these qualities, they're going to oppress you more and more. The more of these statuses you have, the more they're going to oppress you, and the more you have these these fake victim statuses. If you're black, you're trans, you're whatever you want to call it. You're a drug addict. All these. You're a Muslim. If you're all these victim statuses, the more you go up in their hierarchy, and it's a malignant scheme for a purpose, and they're trying to get rid of all resistance to their dominance over the world. And they have much less power than they realize. I call them Zionists. I'm not saying this is just a Jewish thing. This is a 13,000-year-old ideological virus that plagued mankind. It was contagion, an ideological contagion that was spread to mankind 13,000 years ago. And it's a very old virus. And you can look up my other stuff and I'll go through that in detail. I won't go too much off topic here. So the Zionists are the ones behind pushing this virus and trying to dominate and parasitically control the world. And they're scared shitless of another hero like Adolf Hitler rising up to power. And they're trying to make conditions so that no hero can rise up. They're scared shitless of a hero rising up. And they're trying to stop it. So that's why they label things like fascism and National Socialism as these big evil taboos. And if you so much as question the Holocaust narrative, or you talk about National Socialism, you're censored, you go to prison, you're fined, charged for bizarre things you've never said or done. And they go crazy about you. They go nuts. It's all reason why they act like this. They're scared shitless of a hero. And Sargon of Akkad, as much as almost everything he says is true and he's very wise in what he says, he's catastrophically wrong in some of his foundational principles, and he's a hypocrite just like them. His hypocrisy, this is the other point I want to point out, his hypocrisy is, despite all the things that he says is true, his foundational point, his fear, his incoherent fear of fascism and National Socialism and stuff, it's not based in reality, it's based off his own cowardice and fears. And he's basically saying that because fascism can go wrong, therefore all fascists are wrong. There are no hero fascists, they're all evil. Because everyone says bad stuff about National Socialism, then all National Socialism is bad. But we're talking about fascism here as a choice of topic on here to show the point. So Sargon of Akkad says that all fascism, he always goes on about fascism is evil, it's the big evil of the world. It's not. Fascism is the saviour of the world. All these fake fascists, these fascism gone wrong, evil people who have taken the idea of fascism, corrupted it as villains pretending to be hero. Yes, they are the world's evil. So the extreme good and the extreme evil in the world is fascism. Okay? And he's going against all fascism, and he doesn't realise he's actually fighting for the evil people because he's stopping the heroes from rising up. And he doesn't realise it. And because he says all fascism is evil, it's the same attitude, mentality, and hypocrisy of the very people he criticises. He's a double hypocrite. It's no different than a black man who says this white man was accused of being racist 100 years ago. We don't know if it's true, but he was accused, and I'm just going to say it's true because I have a prejudice, but I don't want to admit that prejudice. But therefore, because one white man was falsely accused 100 years ago, all white men must pay compensation to me. Even though that black man who was allegedly oppressed 100 years ago, and it's not even established whether he was or not, and even though he has no ancestry relation to me, but he's just a member of my race, and all these other white men have nothing to do with it either. So neither I have nothing to do with it, and they have nothing to do with it, but somehow they have to pay me, because all white men are evil. And he's just doing the same thing. All fascists are evil. So he's condemning the heroes who are trying to save the world. He's condemning all heroes because he wants to play it safe. There's a reason for risk taking. It's not simply just for getting rewards out of potential higher rewards. You need to take risks sometimes to save people, to save mankind. He's trying to stop saviors from rising up. Saviors that without these saviors, the world's fucked. So he doesn't realise that he's as hypocritical as the typical like black African American racist that he criticise all these. He's doing the same thing that he criticises. He's just as much of a hypocrite, and whether he realises it or not, he's fighting the side of evil. He's fighting for the side of evil, and he doesn't realise it. But despite that, I agree with almost everything he says, and he's wise about a lot of other stuff. But this is just one example of a massive hole in his logic and a massive hole in his moral foundation and his understanding of the world. It's a massive hole, and it's a hole in his very foundation. And realize that he's ultimately a coward at heart, and he's toxically dangerous to heroes who need to rise up. He's trying to stop heroes, and he doesn't realise he's doing it. I'll probably never get to debate him or any of these other people that I critique. They usually avoid debate. They can talk and talk and talk, but they'll never let anyone speak back and debate them. But who knows? Maybe sometime in the future, he and others will be willing to debate me over these matters. And I think that I don't think his motives are evil. I don't think he knows what he's doing. He doesn't realise it. Most of the time, people don't realise it. I think that he's so right in everything else he does, and he seems to have the right intentions. I think that if I was able to debate him and reveal the hole in his logic that he can't even see, I don't think he even sees it, and most people don't see the hole in their logic. It's just how psychology works. I think that I'd be able to convince him and show him that the hole in his logic, and that he would do the right thing, that he would face it and change his ways. He's changed his position on these foundational things. I'm confident that if I got the chance, he would probably choose the right side. But I can't guarantee it. But anyway, understand, I'm choosing Sargon of Akkad as an example because this is pro-democracy kind of people who are actually acting out of cowardice. And while a lot of things they say is true and good, they're actually a Trojan horse and they don't realise it. They're actually fighting for the side of evil and they don't realise it. There's so much I could say about it, but I just chose those topics as an example. And anything else I need to add, I'll just add it in the description or something. I'll be done for this topic for now. All right.